Reiger will perform for Scouts. Reiger poised to become the first of Luke Fickell's transfers to get drafted after posting 5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss last season. Though the Badgers' year did not go the way he wanted, Reiger did find a lot of value in the single season he spent in Madison.
Super blessed to have an opportunity to go and play there, surrounded by great coaches and teammates alike, and just really developing me or pushing me to be a better person and player throughout this last year. You know, this was my last chance to play college football, and to have the opportunity to do it at Wisconsin, it was a great year.
The other Wisconsin player in the combine is wide receiver Vinny Anthony. He's going to be on the field for workouts on Saturday down in Indy. The rest of Wisconsin's NFL hopeful is going to be on the field next Friday in Madison as the Badgers host their annual pro day. Meanwhile, Packers do have some decisions to make in advance of free agency get underway on March 11th. That includes whether to retain several starters, chief among them wide receiver Romeo Doubs and linebacker Quay Walker.
Every child deserves a fair shot at a bright future. That's why Save the Children Head Start administers Head Start programs in rural America. We leveled the playing field early, helping children start school strong, stay strong, and unlock their full potential. Because education is the best path out of poverty. Learn more at savethechildren.org/Head Start.
Well, Wisconsin's still on the West Coast as they make their way to Washington following last night's ugly loss in Oregon. The Badgers will take on the Huskies coming up on Saturday in Seattle. And the Bucs have won 8 of their last 10 games. They're going to be hosting the Knicks tomorrow night at Fiserv Forum. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
All right, final day live at the Combine, the NFL Scouting Combine. I'll be off tomorrow. We'll do Bill's show from 10 to 2, and then Bill wants to get going. So tomorrow night, some interviews that I've been kind of saving up throughout the week. You'll hear that. But tonight is a loaded show. Cody Stoots going to join us. Aaron Nagler, who dropped a little bit of a bombshell, and we're thankful for that content on Packers Twitter today. Some of the player survey stuff, which the NFL tried to block, but I guess we're going to get leaks, which is juicy. And right now, speaking of loaded, Mike Renner is here. So, Mike, it's nice to see you. Speaking of loaded, not yet, maybe later tonight. So, it's funny because you've been on the show a bunch. You've been at Super Bowls. I've been at Super Bowls. You've been at Combine. Now, this is my first Combine, but this is the first time we've ever been able to do something on the show. So thank you. I really appreciate this.
This is fantastic.
What's the biggest, as you talk with people, do people ask you about the Packers? Because you're a Packers guy. You're from Wisconsin.
I make it known.
Okay, you make it known.
Yeah. So Packers, yeah.
What do people ask you, or what do people talk to you about?
I think people want to know how good Malik Willis is a big one. Because Greg Rosenthal of NFL.com, he put him as his number 1 free agent, and
this has been a big deal. People brought this up,
and he will sign. I would, in my estimation, given that I think George Pickens going to get tagged, he'll sign the biggest deal of probably any free agent. I mean, it's going to be north of $30 million somewhere. It's just a matter of who's that desperate right now, but I would take the chance, given just what he showed and who he was. You kind of had to know who he was as a prospect coming out of Liberty, and that he was always a project. And he had some big strengths and weaknesses to his game. His strengths are obvious. Packers fans know this: he can run. He has a cannon for an arm. That's a good starting point. That got Anthony Richardson drafted 4th overall, right? And so people will always give those guys a chance. But he was inaccurate down the football field. He was jittery in the pocket, didn't always have the best footwork. I think the biggest thing that I've seen, the difference from that guy, early on in Tennessee through his career at Liberty, so much more accurate and so much better base and consistency with his footwork. And that's
okay.
So you see, he didn't miss a lot of throws. He went 13 of 15 on deep balls.
He was efficient. He didn't throw a ton, but he was very efficient.
Yeah, and that's, when you do have the goods the way he does as a runner. And I was actually talking with Greg Rosenthal, ranked number 1. He's like, I think he's the only quarterback that you could actually just play a running back. You could actually just put him at running back, and I don't think that would look crazy. Lamar Jackson can run. You're not putting him at running back. Jay Daniels can run. You're not putting him at running back. Kyler can run. Too small. You're not putting him at running back. But Malik Willis, he actually has that look of a running back, has the feel, and he's dynamic as one. So I do think that's such a value add in today's NFL with the light boxes you're seeing, that you don't need to be too much. You don't need to be a high-end processor. You don't need to be, Joe Burrow. You can just be a high-end runner with accuracy down the football field and a big arm, and you can be an effective quarterback if you have a good situation around you.
Is there a team you think would be a perfect match for him?
I keep going back to Arizona because obviously Kyler's gone. and then the LaFleur connection.
Yeah.
If Matt LaFleur is not going to sign him, but obviously knew how to use him well, I think they'll share some notes and say,
Probably.
hey, Mike, here's what he does well. And so, I think that one makes the most sense. And I think that's a situation where he could succeed really early with the talent they have. So that one, after that, honestly, it could be any of the teams that are desperate then after that.
Minnesota's an interesting spot. Like, I'd be very interested if I was Malik Willis at that spot, because I don't know, like, his appetite to compete. Like, does he want a job that's like very directly like, this is your job coming in, or is he willing to like, I think I can beat out McCarthy, maybe the same way that Daniel Jones thought I can beat out Anthony Richardson?
It's hard to say he's earned the right for a starting job because it's 5 games or whatever over the last 2 years, but he's going to command a salary commensurate with starting role. I think he'd be silly to just say, go to Minnesota and then, kind of like, I don't want to say what Matt Flynn did, because Matt Flynn got, bumped by Russ Wilson, and he didn't know that going in when he signed the deal. But if you do go somewhere and you're asked to compete and you don't win that job, well, you're getting cut the next year.
Yeah.
So you can go somewhere, and even if you don't play great, they might not cut you because, they're kind of pot committed if they gave you that starting job right away.
So the other Packers free agents, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, Romeo Doubs, and Igbari, I guess, to a lesser degree. I actually checked Rosenthal's list because I'm like, it's funny. Maybe this has been a quiet combine because more than one person has referenced Rosenthal's list as it's a load-bearing piece of content for this combine. And maybe that just means there aren't any big stories or huge draft prospects that people are talking about. But I think he had him in like the 70s, like 75, somewhere in there. Are there any free agents in that bunch that you think Quay Walker and the Packers would, like, you'd really consider bringing him back, even if you think it's an overpay?
I think Walker's the one that I keep going back to. I'm like, I think he's improved enough over the course of his rookie deal. He's physically talented enough that I would take that chance that he continues to improve and that he's, just the middle of your defense was so good last year in coverage. And linebackers don't cost a ton. So he's the one guy that
Quay Walker. Okay.
Quay Walker.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry. Rasheed Walker now.
Okay.
He's going to get. He's going to
Rasheed Walker guy.
He's going to get the Dan Moore deal, and you don't want to pay him the Dan Moore deal. I'm just going to keep that real. So the Packers, I mean, they'll get a bunch of compensatory picks from these guys. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I'm most intrigued by, because even if they lost every single one, but then got Tucker Kraft and Micah Parsons back healthy, I think they're a better team than they were at the end of the year anyway. Even if you're losing every single one of those guys, but you get the two main guys that were
Devontae Wyatt, I suppose, too.
You get those guys back healthy. I think you're still a better team than you were. So I think they could lose those, get like 2 3s, maybe a 4 in compensatory picks back if you don't sign anyone else, because that's what Malik Willis is going to garner. That's probably what Rasheed Walker is going to garner. And, between either Dobbs or Quay Walker, could get a 4 or 5 from those guys. So, all that being said, I don't feel like any, let's talk about load bearing. I don't think any of these free agents are load bearing guys for this roster.
How did you feel about Jordan Morgan as a prospect? And has that changed at all in 2 years?
I was one of the highest guys on Jordan Morgan,
you liked
in draft media. So when he got picked, I was like, it's not sexy. He might be better at guard than he is at tackle, but you'll be here 3 years from now happy you drafted him. And
it's very Packers-ish.
Yes. And that's, we saw, I think the only thing that gives me pause is he's played so many different positions at this point. He's played everywhere and never gotten a chance to get comfortable. So, and hasn't obviously, in those, I thought he struggled, but he has actually looked better at tackle than I anticipated. So I think at left tackle, I think he's far and away, obviously your best option, but I think he could be a quality starter next year, truthfully, given what I saw at the end of the year.
How would you handle the rest of the line? Because they're losing Ryan. Tom is hurt, but he's probably your best offensive lineman. So, okay, you put Morgan at left tackle. You'd need a center. Mm-hmm. Banks wasn't good. I also don't know what they expected out of Banks relative to what they got. Belton, you thought when we talked before the season, you thought he fits best at left guard.
Yep.
He played right guard and was probably a little overrated, but he didn't suck. So Packers fans are like, okay, that's something we can work with. How would you rebuild that O-line or align it?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, you'd love to have Elgton Jenkins back on like a reduced deal or something going forward, because he is, I think even post-injury, I think he's still going to be one of your better offensive linemen. But center is, if you're going to give up any position, I think center in this draft particularly, you could probably find one in the mid-rounds, later rounds in this year's class. But, yeah, I think it's Morgan, Banks, Belton, Tom is pretty much entrenched. That's what it's got to be. And then center, just got to figure out is Jacob Hunk. I don't know. See how good he is.
They've just never used him at all.
Yeah.
They've never even it hasn't even been presented as an option. And I feel like at some point with all of the injuries, they cross train everybody and they rotate guys. So if they thought anything of him, you would have seen him at least in limited action at some point, don't you think?
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. I mean,
okay.
If he comes in as your starter next year, expectations will be low.
I suppose. Mike Renner is here, CBS Sports. Let's talk bigger picture with the Packers. When you watch that Bears game and as it's ending and they're losing, what did you think about what were you in that moment bracing yourself for? What were you expecting Matt LaFleur to be gone?
I was going to say I was bracing myself for my brother to call me like 10 times.
Is he a big Bears fan?
No, he's a Packers fan, but he was like hurting. He just when they lose games like that, he needs to talk it out. And unfortunately, I threw my phone away and I woke up with 8 missed calls from him.
It's always worse in the morning.
But
those losses are always worse in the morning.
I did not anticipate LaFleur being back. I'll be honest. I thought that was, I felt like what the Bills did was going to happen. Not the Bills, obviously.
They're their own thing.
Exactly. But I thought they would, how Sean McDermott, it was a successful season by, average franchise sort of expectations, and especially the Bills, who were like not an average franchise before he got there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it just felt like the message had grown to the point where it's like, why is it going to be different next year?
Yeah.
Was the question that I still don't think we've had answered to us as Packers fans. So that's what I thought in the moment, and like I said, I still feel like that now. I
saw Bukowski tweet about this, but Deontay Lee with the Ringer put out his way too early projection or whatever. The Packers are pretty low. They weren't bottom of the barrel, but there was, and in his write-up, he was very clearly saying, we've had reason the last 2 years to think they were going to take a jump and the youth was going to start, to put it together. I don't know that people are going to feel the same way going into next year, even with Parsons and Kraft and guys coming back. I would kind of put my money on them having a very similar season where they're a worse seed than they should be and they lose a couple games they shouldn't. And we're right back where we were a year ago.
Yeah. Then you can't obviously think this way, but the 7th seed was introduced 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. You can think this way.
If the 7th seed didn't exist, would it even be a question?
I don't think so.
It wouldn't even be a question. They would have missed the playoffs the last 3 years. They would never made the playoffs since Aaron Rodgers. That to me then is obviously, and I still think the 7th seed shouldn't exist. Those games are always borderline competitive at best. I don't think it should exist. So if it didn't, which was the vast majority of NFL history, he would not be the coach right now.
I've actually started to feel worse about this as the offseason has progressed, which there's a draft.
You don't want the second lowest rated coach in terms of respect for players.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Actually, I didn't look enough into it to say what that does mean, but I just thought it was interesting. That's we're going to actually give him an extension and then this comes out.
Well, and when this first happened, Bill was reacting on air and I was next to him. And my point was I wonder what Belichick, what would players have said about him? But the thing is, if you're winning and the results are awesome, I'm sure there were plenty of Patriots players who won Super Bowls who were Belichick was a dick. I was mostly unhappy in New England, but it worked and you won. You can't not be a player's coach and also not get results. That's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, and especially when I do just think I don't want to say they collapse, but they get tight in crunch time. There is a tightness to this team that I think starts at the top. I think that is a big reason why they look tight in close game situations more often than not.
I can't go week to because you could find something every week where it's well, how do you put that on the floor? Right? It's Romeo Dobbs can catch an onside kick, or McManus did this, or Jordan Love throws it back. But the thing is, when it's something different every week and it feels similar to last year and the year before, not to be cliche or to not just, throw it all at the head coach, but it is the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the buck stops, or it's supposed to stop with him.
I'm right there with you. And
I did think about this
offseason, you were probably the top dog in terms of, now I was surprised at how many coaching openings there went, but I thought you would have been able to attract pretty much whoever you wanted. If you said to John Harbaugh or Jesse Minter or Clint Kubiak that, hey, you get this stable franchise with the franchise quarterback and, great roster right now, a lot of people would sign up for that.
Was there an elite coach you would have wanted? That was a big part of the conversation. Is okay, you could fire LaFleur, but there's no Ben Johnson or there's no.
That's right. I think John Harbaugh's a fantastic coach.
Okay.
That's who I would have gone with, but obviously, here we are.
Yeah, Mike Renner is here, CBS Sports. Trying to think if there's any Packers things that we didn't hit. I want to ask you about the draft. Could you do a second segment with me? We sit over there.
Of course.
Okay. I'm going to ask you on the air to make you stick around. I'll put the pressure on you. We'll be right back with Mike Renner. We'll be right back. I want to talk about some draft stuff too. For those who get nerdy into such things, you're really good at that. So we'll do that next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, welcome back. Cody Stoots, show favorite, going to be here next hour. Aaron Nagler is going to be here at the top of the second hour. We'll get Zach's update, and then we'll get Nags over here. He had some good some good juice on Packers Twitter today. Some of the leaks from the players' surveys that are now coming out in dribs and drabs. We don't get the full report card, but we can get some of it. Mike Renner is back for a second segment. This is appreciated. You're such a good draft guy, which I almost feel bad. I very rarely ask you about that stuff because we normally just talk Packers. But this draft, who was it yesterday? Was it Sam Brookhouse? Maybe one of the Sumer guys was just like, this is not an interesting draft. And I hear that not every year, but you hear a lot like, it's not a good draft. It's a bad year to be at the top of the draft. Can you help help me understand that, because I feel like there's good players in every class. There's talent in every class, but we always talk about certain drafts like, oh, there's no good players. I just don't know that I buy that.
There are positions in this class that are good.
Okay.
They aren't the positions that are particularly interesting positions. I think it's linebacker. I think it's nose tackle.
You're talking to a football guy here. I
think
find these maybe most interesting of all.
I think it's guard. I think those are interesting positions in this class. I think there's good wide receivers. I do just think there's not like surefire, high-end, electric sort of, whether it's pass rushers, whether it's wideouts, whether it's quarterbacks after Mendoza, who's kind of like boring in his own right. So there's not a lot of intrigue because of that. I think we saw it even today, just purely in the weigh-ins. The drill's going on now, but like your number 2 overall pick is probably going to be someone like Arvell Reese from Ohio State or Ruben Bain, and they're Arvell Reese is 240 with 32.5-inch arms. Ruben Bain had some of the shortest arms ever in the combine history for defensive ends. So like they're not the prototype guys.
Sure.
And Arvell Reese played off-ball linebacker, and we're calling him a defensive end. So it's a lot of like you got to squint to see it sort of players, and that's why it's just not as interesting, I'd say.
How do you project Mendoza? Like, give me a comparison. Give me a quarterback where you would say, I think he's going to have that type of career, or is he's going to remind people of that type of guy, even if the measurables and the traits aren't a perfect comparison?
I do think he plays stylistically like a Jared Goff.
Okay.
But he's a more physically imposing version of Jared Goff, and not to hate on Jared Goff too much, I think he's a smarter version of Jared Goff. I don't think that's breaking any ground to say. The guy who didn't know where the sun rose when he got drafted is probably, a lesser cerebral talent to Fernando Mendoza. So his superpower is that, it's like, it's not only that you say smarter than Jared Goff, it's like he's one of the smartest quarterbacks to come around.
Good
and actually a true nerd of football, which, you talk to football guys, you're around it enough to know that not everyone who plays in the NFL loves football. Not everyone who plays, some people treat like everyone else treats their 9 to 5, where they show up, they go to work, they come back, and they don't want to think about it until they have to go to work again. Well, Fernando Mendoza thinks about it 24/7. That's a unique aspect that will make you better than the guys who don't, right? It just will. And you see it already, saw it already at Indiana, how that storybook season was basically on him and his right arm to a large degree. So he's just a very safe prospect in that regard that I think Raiders fans are going to be happy about.
You think the Raiders would be on the right track? They take him. They have their new coach. I brought this up with Sam Brookhouse yesterday, or the day, but I don't even know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. I was surprised the Raiders didn't have somewhat of a reasonable floor last year. That was one of the more surprising parts of the season. I didn't think they'd win the division or make the playoffs, but I was shocked at how awful they were.
It was, yes. I mean, it was probably one of the ugliest teams I can remember.
Yeah.
So it wasn't only just that they were bad, they were truly embarrassingly bad. And you had what you thought were, guys who were Super Bowl winning head coach, one of the most creative offensive coordinators, maybe NFL history, and then a quarterback that was, 3 years of successful as a starter. So surprising, yes. But I think Clint Kubiak, I could not have a higher opinion of him as a play caller. I think he's one of the 3 best in the entire NFL, given what I saw at New Orleans, given what I saw this past year. I mean, truly got the best season ever out of Derek Carr, even though he retired that year from injury. But like when he was healthy, statistically was his best season ever. And then Sam Darnold, to get him to look like what he looked like when he had a great offensive line and 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers, 1 All-Pro wide receiver, with just Jackson Smith and Jigba and kind of a ragtag offensive line. I think he's awesome. So I think that pairing will work.
And Ty Simpson is a legit prospect, not just we need a second guy, so this is who we're going to talk about and break down.
I think he is and will get drafted as one. Now, I don't know if he goes top 10, but I feel about as comfortable with him as I did like Jackson Dart last year, who went in the 20s.
Okay.
And the only difference being he hasn't played a ton of football, but from what he did and how it's supposed to look like at the NFL, I don't think he's that far away. I think the little things about the position he does very well. It's just he got really banged up last year, really bad down the stretch. Now he's going to keep getting banged up in the NFL. I don't know, but there was a large stretch of the season before injuries where he looked like a franchise-type quarterback.
Are there some players in this draft you would love to see with the Packers? No first-round pick, but this guy would be a perfect fit. He's a great value in a later round. Just guys who are your daydream Packers picks?
I really want Caden McDonald from Ohio State. Now, I don't know where he'll go because he's a pure nose tackle, like pure. And rarely do those guys go first round. They might in this year's class, given how much run defense matters. But if he starts to slip, that's the guy I want. I want to shore up, because you saw when Devontae Wyatt went down, they could not stop. I mean, the Ravens game was disgusting how bad their run defense was. And it's because they're throwing up guys who are like 270 on the interior. It's just they don't have the beef up front. So I look at this nose tackle class and I'm like, before they hit day 3, I think one of them is going to be a Packer.
Do you hold Savion Williams stock?
No, I'm sorry.
He's such a weird, and I think I asked you about this when they drafted him. He's run after the catch guy, but also contested catch guy. And those typically aren't bottled in the same player, if I'm remembering correctly. But they also only used him as a jet sweep guy, except for the one catch against the Giants where he just went up and got it. I don't know what to do with him.
He just is not a good route runner. And 9 times out of 10, the guy who's not a good route runner in college does not become a good route runner.
Well, what if the hands also aren't great?
That sounds like every Packers wide receiver then.
Dude.
So I interesting gadget player. I think he can be, he'll get more usage in that. I think he could be like an RB2 if you wanted to move him to running back with their kind of woes at running back. I think that might even be where he fits better in the NFL, given his skill set. Wow. But like a Cordero Patterson type of move. But as a wide receiver, I don't think he's anything outside of a pure gadget guy.
Well, that's disappointing. If Christian Watson is healthy, is he just not one of the best 10 wide receivers in football?
I'm a little lower on him than that, but I think he brings so much value in his explosiveness to the offense.
I guess maybe just his value from how much better he makes the offense when he's out there.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You are going to live with, and stat I repeat a lot last year, like his Jordan Love's interception throwing to Christian Watson is just like 4 times his throwing to any other wide receiver.
Hospital ball ratio is really high too. I feel like,
and it's because Christian Watson has trouble tracking balls down the football field. I mean, you saw it most notably in that Eagles game when it literally hit him in the head when he was trying to break it up. But that you'll have to live with. But my gosh, that guy can fly, and his speed is a real weapon, and that you can use that every day of the week.
It's like the beaches of Normandy when Love cranks the ball downfield. Like he's in between 3 defenders, getting hit from 3 different sides, and maybe making the greatest catch I've ever seen, or maybe the ball's hitting him in the head and both of his knees are bending backward. Like it's always interesting when the ball goes his way. Okay, is there a young player on the Packer first or second year that you would actually expect to take a jump? Because I'm kind of struggling to find
Matthew Golden. I think Matthew Golden end of the year looked. I mean, the playoff game, he has a little bit of a kind of, I would say, toughness to his game that I think is different than any other Packers wide receivers. A little bit grittier sort of guy that I think having a down rookie year, having the conversation about Luther Burden in the playoff game, having a better year than him, I think he's going to be out for blood this next season.
Will they throw him the ball? That might help.
Can he play? Will he play? That'll help. And
that's what's crazy is his snap count was actually pretty high, and he got hurt, later in the year, which maybe diluted it a little bit. He just never really got the ball that much.
I will see, but I think he will.
All right, McManus.
Kickers, man, trying to get into the mentality of a kicker. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
They let them be themselves.
We'll end on a kicker. We'll end on a dud. Okay. So you're going out on the town tonight. Keep your ear to the ground if you hear any Packers rumors.
If I get any Packers rumors, it'll probably come from Aaron Nagler at like Steak and Shake at 3 a.m.
Dude, I've kind of become a Steak and Shake guy this week. I've got it more than once.
Steak and Shake's good. I will say. Good burgers, not as good as Culver's, but you can't always beggars can't be choosers right here.
That's a perfect way to end it. Mike Renner, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for doing this.
For sure, Grant. Thanks for having me.
All right, we need to get into these Aaron Nagler rumors. We'll do that next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
With Pella, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. And with a 10-year labor warranty, your windows and doors are worry-free for years to come. If something goes wrong, we're here to handle it because you work with the same team from start to finish.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 48 months.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We have a loaded show tonight. Great start with Mike Renner. A couple segments. Love that guy. One of the best people working in NFL media. In hour number 2, Cody Stoots. I know a guest that everybody loves. Covers the Houston Texans. And it's funny. I first met Cody. I met him in person for the first time this week, but the first time I ever talked to Cody was, it was before the show started. So it probably would have been in 2017. I was doing a fill-in morning show on WK2I for probably Dave and Scrady at the time. And I was co-hosting with Hunter Baumgart, and the Packers must have been playing the Texans. I'm going to have to go back and find the exact game that this was leading up to. But we wanted a Packers-Texans guy, and we found this cat named Cody Stoots. We just found a random Twitter account. Like, this guy seems good. And with a name like Cody Stoots, like a name just screams Texas. So ever since then, he's just been the guy. Anytime there's a Packers-Texans story, anytime the Packers get someone from the Texans, or he's just a great draft guy too. So he's on every once in a while, but he'll join us at the table hour number 2, Aaron Nagler at the top of the hour at 5:00. A little Badgers thing. We're not discussing Badgers basketball last night. And I was awake for most of the game. We're just not going to discuss it. We're just going to act like that didn't happen. We're going to move on. A Badgers football tidbit. Mason Reiger tested today over at Lucas Oil Stadium, where they're doing drills and they're doing measurings and all those sorts of things. And I ended up over there with Bill and Mike, because right when Bill's show ended at 2, Bill said, "You want to walk over there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got 2 hours. Let's walk over there and just see the sights." Mike got the concessions are open because fans are there. So Mike gets an extra large Diet Coke and a bag of popcorn, and we're just sitting in the seats, right? And I look down, I'm like, I think I know that mustache. I think that's Mason Reiger. So I walk down there and I'm like, oh, they're doing vertical jump. I'm gonna have to get a video and send it to Zach, because Zach and Jesse with the camp, they could post that video. Badgers fans will love to see that. And I don't know anything about anything. I don't know how many inches of a vertical jump is good, but I watched probably 4 or 5 guys go before Mason Reiger. And I could tell that a couple of them were pretty good. One guy was just not. Like, he seemed bummed. I'm like, I don't think that guy did very. Again, I know nothing. I'm like, he didn't hit very many of the paddles on the thing. I don't think he just didn't look very athletic. He had tight hips, maybe no base, or whatever words scouts use. And then Reiger went. I'm like, I think that was really good, actually. That some of the guys who were waiting to go behind him, was some hooting and hollering. I'm like, I think that was good. So I sent the video to Zach. He's like, well, do you know how he jumped? I'm like, dude, I'm just here getting the videos. Don't ask me. Well, I guess he jumped 40 inches. And I think, based on the tweet that Zach posted, and I think the results have been finalized, I think he was tied him at second, the best among edge rushers. So pretty darn good. And it's funny because Reiger was at the podium yesterday, and he was asked about testing and, what do you expect to do in the 40 or the cones or the shuttle or the sit and reach? I don't know. And he basically, more than once, pretty confidently said something along the lines of, I'm excited to surprise people with how well I test. And I don't know, maybe he had conversations with his agent or with his trainers down here, and maybe they got the sense that people weren't, really all expecting him to test all that well. Really physically impressive player. You just tell by the eye test. And again, I'm no scout, although I think our Packers background, I think our Green Bay background, there's good scouts in Green Bay. So maybe it's just something in the water in Wisconsin. I don't know. Maybe I have a future. I'm being a dick. But just looking at Reiger compared to some of the other edge rushers, he wasn't as tall, but the arms are really long, just really stacked out and built. And I don't know if his agent or, again, his trainer, just asking around and talking with other people, I just don't know that the expectation for Reiger's testing was all that high. And on more than one occasion at his podium session yesterday, he said, yeah, we're looking forward to, surprising people a little bit, because you could just tell he felt really good about his chances of testing really well. Now, I didn't see his 40. I think they were doing some sort of base jump. They were doing some sort of standing reach. Again, I just watched the vertical because I was only over there for an hour, and it was sheer happenstance that I happened to see it. I didn't go over there with the plan of watching, but it works out well because, one of 2 Badgers who are here, Vinny Anthony, I believe, speaks tomorrow, and I would imagine he tests over the weekend, the other Badger. We were going to try to talk today with Who's the tight end who went to Riley Nowakowski? But he never showed up for the podium, or if he did, it was like over an hour late. And I feel myself this week becoming a jaded member of the media, because we're standing at the podium waiting for these players to come out. And I'm looking at, Clemens was there, Tim Van Vorn, Gary Woelfel, interestingly enough. And we're like, they don't care about our time. They don't care. The NFL doesn't give a crap about the media. A couple of texts here. Madtown Ryan says, you and Aaron Nagler are going to be awesome at 5:00. The amount of knowledge between you two is going to be amazing. Well, the amount of knowledge from one person, I will try to facilitate and get you guys some good information. Stephen Richfield, appreciate the texts and the participant. I'm not going to read that, but it did make me laugh. Apologies for those yesterday who were watching on YouTube. There's been some glitches. So I know the live chat was kind of DOA yesterday. It seems to be back and everything seems to be working today. So I'm glad everyone can participate. We'll be off tomorrow. I'll run a little bit of a compilation show from some of our interviews today because we're going to be traveling back. So I'm sorry, those are the breaks this week. We got to come do a couple shows at the Combine, but we are on Bill's travel schedule and we're based around the 10 to 2 show. So we left a little early on Monday. Weren't live. We will not be live tomorrow. Apologies. But again, I'm trying to bring you guys, I'm trying to get you Mason Reiger because again, it's him and Vinny Anthony, and that's it. Coming up at 5:00, I said Nagler would be here. I don't know if some of you saw today. If you follow Aaron Nagler, you probably did. Cheesehead TV. He had a pretty good scoop related to the Packers report card. The NFLPA, the grades are out. We don't have the details that we've had in the past because there was some sort of ruling, and I didn't care enough to look into it, but there was some sort of ruling that the owners won an injunction or a TRO, I don't know exactly what the legal term is or what the process was, to basically stop some of these details from coming out because, well, the owners don't want to look bad. It's like, don't tell everyone that our plane has ashtrays in the armrests, and don't tell everyone that, our practice facility has sewage leaking from. Of course, these owners don't want to be put on blast, because if they're put on blast and they're publicly shamed, then they have to spend money to fix stuff because people are going to roast them, right? So the Packers on some of this, some of these things, they received low grades. They got C's for treatment of families and home game field. I don't know exactly what home game field means, but it would seem not providing daycare, no place for the wives and the kids, that sort of thing. The locker room got an A, but remember, they just replaced that within the last 2 or 3 years. They completely redid that. So that's maybe the newest part. So the locker room was an A. The training room received the lowest grades of anything. They got a C for training room and training staff. Now they're replacing the training room now. That's their project this offseason. So I would imagine that'll get good grades in the future, just like the locker room. They redo the locker room. Everyone loves the locker room. Strength coaches and position coaches both got B's. Offensive coordinator got a C. I don't know quite what to do with Adam Stenavich. It's been this weird theme on Packers Twitter this offseason. So far, I love saying the offseason as if the season didn't end like less than a month ago with the Super Bowl. But I don't know why Adam Stenavich takes so much crap from Packers fans. First of all, their offense is good. And Jordan Love was really good this year. And they scored a lot of points. Situationally, they weren't always perfect. And they had lesser games. They had better games and worse games. Obviously, every team does. But on balance, their offense was pretty good. The problem is Adam Stenavich has been promoted a couple of times, and now people are like, well, why isn't he getting other jobs? Why isn't he continuing it? So people are looking at that. There's also, people are commenting about this on the internet, Packers fans all the time too, where it's like, well, what does Adam Stenavich even do? Which I don't know. What does any offensive coordinator who doesn't call plays do? I don't know. You also hear some former Packers, especially, and a lot of people speak really highly of Adam Stenavich. Other coaches, former players, he's just such an interesting player, but their offensive coordinator getting graded out at a C, defensive coordinator A-, special teams coordinator B+. They liked Rich Bisaccia, and the rest of it is either B or A's, whether it was travel, GM, ownership A-, which is funny because I guess that kind of falls on Mark Murphy, now turned to Ed Policy, but it's a publicly owned team, so they don't have an owner figure like some teams do, like most teams do. But what Aaron Nagler posted today, and this was from a source, so this leaked out from the PA. The Green Bay Packers fell 14 spots to 21st overall in this year's report card, the steepest year-over-year decline of any team. The drop is driven largely by the decline in ratings for the training room and training staff, which now rank in the bottom third of the league. Players report a lack of space and outdated recovery equipment, along with a lack of communication and trust in the training room. These issues are a top priority players identified to be addressed. Here's what's interesting. So they're redoing the training room. So I would bet dollars to donuts that when this comes out next year and the training room is all new, that it'll probably get sparkling grades because it will be bigger, newer, better organized, better lit. It'll feel updated. It'll feel cutting edge. They'll have better equipment. It'll be, the layout of everything will make more sense. So I'm fine. Like, the training room is old. They're replacing it for a reason, just like they did with the locker room, which is now getting sterling grades. I'm not sure with the training staff, because the trust doesn't seem to be there. And for so long, and I've listened to Bill forever, and I've been on his show now for over 3 years. I've been doing this show since 2018. I've just been consuming a lot of Wisconsin or creating a lot of Wisconsin sports commentary for a while. And it's always been said of the Packers medical staff that they're conservative, that they always, not what's best for the team, but what's best for the player. They're always looking out for the player. And I just feel like in recent years, that's more reputation. I think they're living on reputation. They brought back Zach Tom too early. They allowed Josh Jacobs to play through an injury all year. And anytime I would bring that up with Ryan Wood, who would join us on Fridays, say, Ryan, why don't they just give Josh Jacobs a week off to reset? Like, Emmanuel Wilson isn't awesome, but first of all, their running game isn't awesome anyways. It's not like they're winning through their running game. You can plug Emmanuel Wilson and probably get mostly the same type of performance. And the most important thing is, I don't think it will really impact their ability to win, because they're winning by throwing the ball anyways, and early on in the season, especially through their defense before Micah Parsons and Devontae Wyatt got hurt. So I never understood why they just didn't give Josh Jacobs a week or two off. And Ryan Wood would always say, well, you try to tell Josh Jacobs to miss a game. That's a guy who's going to demand to play. And I always be like, yeah, but it's the training staff and the medical staff and the coach's job to not be walked all over by the player. So Zach Tom coming back too early, Lucas Van Ness coming back too early, Josh Jacobs coming back too early. There was a lot of disconnect, and you could chalk Jair Alexander up to just being an outlier and an oddball. Okay, maybe, or having an injury like with David Bakhtiari. That injury is an outlier. Okay, but there's so many of these cases where they couldn't figure out injuries or guys came back early. So the training room is separate to me because they're updating that. The training staff, specifically, again, the wording that Nagler had was lack of communication and trust in the training room. That, to me, is a much more present issue, and an issue that I'm concerned about moving forward, much more so than the facilities themselves, because they're actually updating those. The second half of this, and this scoop, again, is because of Aaron Nagler. He put this out today. He'll join us at the top of the second hour. Players report that the team does not provide game day childcare, as most teams do, contributing to their bottom third ranking for treatment of families. Is this a safe space? Like, can I be honest? I don't care about the day. I don't care that they don't do daycare. That makes me a bad person. Maybe the players should want it. I'm just not going to grandstand on a sports talk radio show about how dare they not take care of the children like they should. I'm more concerned with the football stuff. So we're just going to go past the childcare. The team's nutrition program similarly ranks near the bottom, with players wanting improved nutrition plans and more nutritious food options to better support these plans. It does seem kind of insane to me that these, $1 million, $1 billion football enterprises, they're more than just a franchise, right? These enterprises are investing all this money, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in players. And you don't have a dietitian. I mean, I'm sure they do, but the complaint is it's not good enough. That just seems like such a weird place to underwhelm. It just seems like these teams spare no expense. That's a weird expense to spare, I guess, is my point. So I put a pin in the nutrition thing. The thing that most people are glomming onto from this, and with good reason, the last part is head coach Matt LaFleur dropped a full letter grade this season and ranks second to last in the league in respect for players. So it's not, I saw some people maybe mistaking this on the internet. They're not saying that the players don't respect Matt LaFleur. They're saying that Matt LaFleur doesn't respect his players. I don't exactly know what that means. I mean, I know what respect means, but I don't know specifically how that would present. Does he not give the players the time of day? Do players not feel like there's an open dialogue and an open door policy anytime? I've heard that said about UW, the football program there. With Paul Christ, his door was open anytime. You could go, discuss concerns with him anytime. Like Luke Fickell's not available. You can't bend his ear. You can't share with him like, hey, I'm going through this as a player. I have questions about this. So maybe respect from players is just as simple as he doesn't give us time of day. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's an a-hole, although it could. The thing that I brought up with Bill earlier today is I wonder what Bill Belichick for a lot of those years would have ranked in respect for players. I doubt it would have been very high, but here's the thing. You can be an a-hole coach if it works and you're winning. It doesn't mean that all the players who play for you are going to love you forever or have the most fun playing for you, but they're going to win. And there's plenty of former Patriots who talk about their time in New England. I wouldn't say that I necessarily had a blast, but they won. They got opportunities to win championships. The problem with Matt LaFleur is they're a perennial 7 seed, man. So if you're being a-hole dictator head coach, fine, but you can't be getting bounced in the first round because that means your a-holeness, your dictatorness is not working. It's not getting the results that you need. So it's the worst of both worlds. You're not a player's coach, and your dictator approach isn't resulting in wins. So we'll talk more about that. Aaron Nagler had the scoop in the story. He'll join us here at the table at the top of this next hour, at hour number 2 when we come back. A couple dribs and drabs from the Combine today, a couple of smaller things that we can cover in a shorter segment as we wrap up the last segment of the first hour live here at the NFL Scouting Combine. The 2026 Scouting Combine will be here tonight, and then for Bill's show tomorrow. Tomorrow night will be a best of show, so some of the best moments and some interviews that didn't make it onto the air that I've been kind of saving throughout the week. But we have this next hour with 2 great guests. I'm really excited, so don't go anywhere. Some random Combine news and notes coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. We're winding down the first hour of the show tonight. We're live here at the NFL Scouting Combine. Presenting sponsor, Kai's Chevytown. Their inventory updated daily, and they have some great 2025 closeout deals, especially on some bigger models, trucks, SUVs, Suburbans, Blazers, those Tahoes, those sorts of things. Savings of $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on some of the models. So that inventory is updated daily. Obviously, new models, or if you want to go older. When I got my car with them a little bit over a year ago, I went with the 2018. That was perfect for my price and what I was looking for. I love my Malibu. So you can see their inventory. It's updated daily, ChevytownUSA.com. And you can use that website to schedule service as well. The number's there if you want to give them a call with any questions that you have. Be wise, see Kai's for the best buys. Something that I bookmarked today and I had to pass along to Bill was an ESPN story from Dan Graziano about some of the top trade candidates in the NFL right now. Now, with lists like this, I'm always wondering, is this a story where an NFL personality or a writer looked around the league and just not guessed, but said these guys could make sense as trade candidates. They would make sense as trade candidates, or is it couched? Is it sourced? It's probably a little bit of both. Nate Hobbs is on this list, and I'll read for you what Graziano wrote. He said, Hobbs is a free agent signing in Green Bay last year, but he dealt with injuries and bounced between slot corner and outside corner duties when he's on the field. He seems better cast as a slot corner, but the Packers aren't short on those. And it's possible they could see him as a valuable trade candidate who could help them pick up an extra draft pick or two. Difference between valuable and trade candidate. Valuable trade candidate maybe is a little bit rich. He has a $6.2 million roster bonus due on the third day of the league year. So if it happened after that, it would be even cheaper for the acquiring team. Green Bay wasn't the only team interested in Hobbs during free agency. And if there's a slot corner market out there, it might make sense for the Packers to see what they can get. I think the Packers would love to trade him, especially before the first day of the third day of the league year, because then they're not on the hook for that $6.5 million. I just don't know why any other team would want to pick that up. Like, we'll just wait. Now, maybe that nets you a better draft pick, but the new league year starts in March, so you would still be getting those picks before the draft. So I guess that wouldn't make sense. Maybe you could get a fifth round pick instead of a sixth, or a fourth instead of a fifth if you eat that signing or that roster bonus of $6.25 million. Maybe that's something to look at. The Packers, of course, are without a first round pick, but does picking up an additional, let's say fifth round pick, just for the sake of argument, does picking up an additional fifth really put you in that much of a better spot? Especially because I think corner depth is one of their weakest, areas on the team. The problem is Nate Hobbs was brought in last year to service the corner depth, and he wasn't really able to do so. He was banged up, sure, but he's always been banged up. It's the same thing with Banks. Both of their free agent signings, like, well, neither had a great year, but they were both hurt. Yeah, but that's been the book on them. They're players who've been hurt a lot in their career, which is, not the entire reason they were available, but part of the reason that both of those guys were even on the market, and the Raiders were okay letting Hobbs go, and the Niners were okay letting Banks go. These are things we're dealing with. I would just love the Packers to just spend a couple old-fashioned draft picks on the cornerback position, maybe before the seventh round, but it doesn't really seem like the Packers are too keen on that. Or Brian Gutekunst hasn't been keen on it, put it that way. Soul Surfer says on the childcare, the daycare, which is a big thing in these report cards. Players want childcare, daycare on game days. Soul Surfer says all these factors and variables play into whether free agents want to come play for Green Bay, though the little things, through the little things, childcare, the facilities. I would say the facilities for sure. I would say the number one reason guys want to come play for you is because you are paying them the most money. And I know like Xavier McKinney talked about, man, I really wanted an opportunity to come play for a franchise like Green Bay. Yeah. They're also paying him the most money. So the other stuff is nice too. I don't think the Packers are going to start getting free agents on a budget because their daycare is awesome. The facilities, yeah. I don't want to go play somewhere with bad facilities, especially if I'm an in-demand free agent. And if the Packers and another team like the Vikings say, who are known for their facilities. The Vikings are a real outfit, man. The Wolves care. They spend. And the Packers are updating the training room, too. That's why the part of that scoop that bothers me most is the trust with the training staff. We'll talk about that with Aaron Nagler next.
This is the Wisconsin Sports Zone Update.
Well, the first game of Wisconsin's West Coast road trip did not go as planned last night. Badgers fell to the lowly Oregon Ducks by double digits, thanks to some cold shooting, turnovers, and a lack of cohesion on the defensive side. Of those three, Coach Greg Gard focused on the final one.
More importantly, I think just the defensive end, specifically the second half, we were as discombobulated as I've seen us in a while. And credit Oregon for, they hit some tough shots, hit some shot clock shots, but I thought we were not as connected as we had been in a while, and I got to look through the tape and figure out why.
Badgers going to stay out west in advance of their game against Washington on Saturday. Huskies 14-14 on the year, sitting in 12th place in the Big Ten, coming off a road win at Rutgers. This will be Wisconsin's first trip to Seattle to face Washington since 1955. Tip on Saturday is at 3. Turning to the Bucs, they took down a shorthanded Cleveland team last night at Fiserv Forum. It was their 8th win in the last 10 games, has them sitting one game back of Charlotte for the final spot of the play-in tournament. They're going to welcome in the Knicks tomorrow night.
Every child deserves a fair shot at a bright future. That's why Save the Children Head Start administers Head Start programs in rural America. We leveled the playing field early, helping children start school strong, stay strong, and unlock their full potential. Because education is the best path out of poverty. Learn more at savethechildren.org/Head Start.
Well, Packers GM Brian Gutekunst says they would like to keep Romeo Doubs in Green Bay. The wide receiver set to be a free agent next month. Speaking at the NFL Combine earlier this week, Gutekunst said they'd love to have him back, and he'd be a big part of the team if he is. Doubs is ranked as the 6th best free agent wide receiver by The Athletic. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil-Grid.
Hour number 2, we're back here in the Scouting Combine. This will be the last show of the week because we're kicking off after Bill's show tomorrow. We'll be out of here. So Greg Cosell's going to be on with Bill tomorrow, one of my favorite spots to always listen to at the Super Bowl and at the Combine as well. So I can't wait to listen in on that. And some highlights on tomorrow night's show. Cody Stoots will be here in a half hour. Aaron Nagler is joining us now, and I directly had to thank you for the scoop that you put out about the Packers report card, which isn't getting presented formally like in the past.
Correct.
Which is hilarious that the NFL owners were like trying to put the kibosh on it.
I just love that they legit sued because of a complaint mostly driven by Johnson, the Jets owner, because he has such a fragile ego. He called it bogus because obviously he was getting a terrible grade. And so now everybody knew the moment that happened, and they took it quote unquote private.
Yeah.
You knew it was all going to come out anyway.
Yeah.
It's hilarious to me. The whole kind of dog and pony show of, well, we're still going to produce them, but they won't be available publicly. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
That stuff will get out. Let's talk about, so there's a couple tidbits in here.
Yeah.
First, you heard maybe talking, I hate how quiet it is in here.
I don't know. Most people have gone or they're at the workouts.
I'm forced to confront just what I'm spewing. Like when I'm in a room by myself, it's like, all right, this is sports talk radio, but now I'm like, man, people can hear this. But we're talking about how the Packers don't provide daycare, which has been a sticking point for other teams too.
Right.
It might make me a bad guy or unsympathetic. I just don't care.
I just love that the 28-year-old has some ongoing thoughts about childcare. Yeah, buddy. I'll bet that doesn't matter a whole lot to you. Anyone who's had to juggle with their children while working and generating billions of dollars of revenue for their employer. Yeah, I think childcare should be an expectation. And by the way, pretty uniform across the league at this point. It wasn't even, let's say, like 5 years ago. But right now, it is. And why? It seems like such an easy lift. Like, that's my thing. This was part of the grades last year. One of the complaints from players was that there was no childcare. Year later, still no childcare. I mean, this seemed like an easy fix, an easy win. Take the easy win as policy.
So okay, so this is fair. I will back off my daycare. I'm not like it's not that I don't want.
Look,
daycare.
I get your point. You're not like on the grand scheme of things, the list of issues that players may have. I understand why people will be somewhat dismissive of that, but man, every bit helps, especially when you're, let's say, on the free agent tour or whatever you're calling guys and. Man, you're going against you're trying to bid for somebody in free agency and they're weighing their options. Why leave that out?
Well,
why have that obvious hole in your resume?
And you're from Appleton originally.
I am indeed.
So if the Packers put out a job offering for a local daycare provider to
this is what I'm saying.
People would jump at it.
Find a daycare provider and partner with them. The official daycare partner of the Green Bay Packers. And you come in every Sunday and watch the kids. I mean, how difficult can this possibly be?
You're right. It's not hard.
This is my point. This is why it's so frustrating. Take the easy wins.
The Packers also didn't do well when it comes to the training facilities, which they're updating.
Like literally as we speak.
So the funny thing is their locker room got glowing remarks, which they just updated, a year
last year?
2 ago?
Yep.
So I would imagine they'll come out on the other side and that will get, but the thing that I circled is like the communication and trust with the people working in the training room. And
that is interesting.
That's been sneaky a bigger issue with the Packers than a lot of people have talked about because they've had such a sterling reputation for such a long time, being conservative and looking out for the player, but they've botched some of these return to play scenarios.
Which I asked Gutekunst about on Tuesday because it did feel like there was a difference in their way of operating, right?
Yep.
I mean, this year in particular, because I remember when Devontae Adams deleted a tweet after being really pissed off that he couldn't go.
He thought he was ready.
He thought he was going to play. I think it was a nationally televised game, and he
was it
thought
the Cardinals
it was
game on Thursday night.
I think so, but he said he was like, I just remember he was pissed, and then he deleted the tweet. And it's like the Packers were famous for being conservative, and I heard you talking earlier about kind of maybe coasting on that reputation a little bit as far as being given the benefit of the doubt, which is what I kind of asked Brian as far as. It seemed like this year in particular, there were more conversations with players than I ever remember happening in the past. And it continually bit them as far as like whether it was Josh Jacobs, the whole McManus episode, Lucas Van Ness returning to play for 6 plays before he shut down.
Zach Tom
lasting one play in Cleveland, one play. So I just don't. And Brian chalked it up as, okay, it was just an odd year, right? It was just happenstance. So, and maybe that's true, but man, it did feel different this year, I will admit.
I also think, to be fair to the Packers, guys are always playing through something.
Yeah.
So
100%.
I don't think there's this beautiful utopia where everyone's perfectly healthy. Like, I don't think that exists.
No, it doesn't.
But there's a lot of examples. The thing that a lot of people have glommed onto the report card is Matt LaFleur and his respect for the players.
Ooh, it's a hot one.
What do you think that means?
That's a great question. I would love to be able to get some expansion on that. I don't have access to the report itself, just screenshots that were sent to me. I know Kalen Kaler of ESPN put out all the grades, but even that doesn't allow you access to, because it's funny, on the screenshots, there's links that you can press or should be able to press to get expanded thoughts on each of these topics, but I don't have access to it. So I don't know. All I know is they talked about how he dropped a full letter grade, and the grades are out there, and he's got the head coach grade is a B-, and that's not a great look, especially when you consider, now here's the kicker, those grades, and I think Kayla mentions this in her piece, those grades were submitted prior to the 5-game losing streak.
Oh boy.
That is
I didn't know that.
Great. So I do think LaFleur's got a little work to do there, and I am going to be fascinated because he's going to get asked about it next time he's in front of a microphone, which should be at the owners' meetings in a couple weeks. That's going to be a very interesting conversation.
So maybe you heard some Matt LaFleur scuttlebutt along these lines. When we were in New Orleans, we talked to someone. When I say we, I was with Bill, and Bill talked to someone, and I overheard.
You were hanging out.
Who had talked to LaFleur recently since the season had ended.
Yeah.
And I think this was after he received his extension. Yeah, because it was Super Bowl week. And he basically said, this weighed on LaFleur quite a bit this year. Like his job status and his job uncertainty was real. Like it was affecting him.
Yeah.
I wonder if Matt LaFleur was, I don't want to say more crabby than normal this year because of that.
Zero doubt. I mean, the Halloween thing is like, you can circle that and like probably a couple other examples of like a guy who was, a little, I think, uptight I think it's been that way now for a little bit with Matt, and hopefully the extension does free him up a little bit, give him a loosen up the grip a little bit. I do think, I've said this now for 2 years. I remember having a talk with Mark Tauscher about this last season. What is the old saying? Teams are a reflection of their coach. And if you are like this tight grip on your team kind of guy, that reflects in the players, and it reflects on a team that blew how many fourth quarter leads. There's definitely a little more fire underneath that smoke.
Well, and to go back to the respect for the players, this is what I told Bill earlier. I'm like, I wonder what Belichick would have graded. I can't imagine he would have done great with that.
Right.
But the thing is his approach worked.
It resulted in wins.
They executed those little things, and the Packers aren't doing that.
And the winning cures everything. It's the greatest deodorant.
Of course.
I mean, it's so funny to think about. I know this will be a hot topic now for the next few days, but the Miami Dolphins have come in number 1 in this grading system for the last 3-4 seasons, whatever. The Minnesota Vikings are always near the top. Is this producing winning football? I'm very much in favor of the players having a voice and getting the best that they can as far as their work environment.
That's what the union's for.
But man, ultimately it's about winning. And I'm not too concerned if it's, guys, maybe, okay, there's circumstance or context there that we're not aware of or that hasn't been presented to us, and that's entirely possible. Man, if you win, no one's going to care. Like nobody, no fan is going to care, etc. So, it is on the floor to start piling up some wins that matter, piling up some, better placement in the playoffs, etc. Because if he doesn't and it keeps going on like this, it's going to be a tough place to live for him in particular these next couple of years.
And this fan base too. We're in a bit of it. Well, you probably get this more than anyone. It's you and Bill and a couple other people who receive as much commentary from fans as you do.
Yes.
He's at Cheesehead TV. It's Aaron Nagler. I'm not anti-Matt LaFleur. I kind of could have gone either way. If they would have fired him, I would have got it. I understand why they brought him back. As the offseason continues, I feel like I'm a little more anti because I just feel like we're going to end up in the same place next year. And I think you are sympathetic to that.
I am. I get it.
Tell me if you don't understand this question. Mm-hmm. At what point do you get off the Matt LaFleur criticism train? Like, to what point will you accept Packers fans being critical of Matt LaFleur?
Oh, as long as it's not personal. I get it, but man, dude, my stuff is, my comments, my whatever mentions are filled with just egregiously horrible, personal shit stuff. Sorry about Matt LaFleur or whoever. Man, you can be as frustrated as you want, but at the end of the day, he's going home and hanging out with his kids and he's a person. And I understand being frustrated. I understand all the context of being a head coach in the NFL and what a hard job it is. And it is title town. You are expected to compete for championships, and they haven't been doing that. All of that is true, but none of that should give fans carte blanche to get, personal when attacking the coach.
Is there a football argument or football reasoning, criticism of Matt LaFleur that you think goes too far? Like, okay, I'm with you on the details. I'm with you on the execution. But once I start hearing this stuff, it's like, this is not fair criticism of the coach, or this is too far.
I don't know. I want to say most, you'd have to point to something specific, but I think most of the criticism has been fair as far as his approach or his, what he likes to do in certain situations, situational stuff in general, etc. I think most of that is fine.
Okay.
But what does kind of, bug me or, choose a phrase there, what irks me a little bit is that there's no then turn around and acknowledge the good stuff he does, which is ample. There's this idea that they're winning in spite of Matt LaFleur is really ridiculous. So I don't mind criticism, and there's certainly plenty to criticize, but just step back. Here the comment is the perfect opportunity to kind of reset and recalibrate your context of the league and what other teams are dealing with. I'm not saying Matt's perfect. I'm not saying the Packers are perfect. But in the context of the 32 teams trying to vie for a championships, the Packers are in a really good spot. They have got to improve. There's no doubt about it. But man, it's hard for me to sit here and go, woe is me, I'm a Packers fan. That's hard to swallow.
What is the Aaron Nagler perspective on why their special teams just is always bad?
Well, here's the thing. There's nuance there, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, there are always instances we've been able to point to throughout the years of the special teams costing them games or contributing to losses. That's how I'll say it.
I like that.
Because certainly there's plenty of plays throughout a game that can help you win or lose. I do think they did improve on teams. I actually bought what Brian was saying the other week when he talked about we have brought guys in specifically for teams. That's something Ted Thompson never did.
They've been worse.
absolutely improved in their coverage units. They absolutely have one of the best punters in the game. It's like they've made improvements. They've gotten better. The problem, of course, is the major driver, I think, beyond like just, they have, quote, bad special teams. Obviously, protection issues have cost them. That cost them a couple of times this year. And then the big problem, the big kind of issue that has kind of permeated now since essentially they let Micah Hyde walk out the door. They got 2 really good years, obviously, out of Keyshawn Nixon on kick returns. But, man, they haven't had a punt returner since Michael walked. And the seeming just disregard for trying to find one is just frustrating. I know Jaden Reed did it at an okay level, and then he got hurt this year, so he couldn't even do that. But the throwing Romeo Doubs out there and just throwing up their hands, that to me, that's an abdication of your responsibility almost. And that has permeated for years. So if it's because they don't want that body type, the smaller, quicker, shiftier guy, because that doesn't fit their wide receiver profile, well, can you find a corner that can do it? There've been a number of good ones, including Micah, who, by the way, still is tied for the franchise record with most punt returns for a touchdown with 3, along with Will Blackman and Desmond Howard.
God, Will Blackman was good.
All those guys were good. Like, what happened? We were so good for a while.
Stop trying.
Finding these returners. And now that, to me, that has been the big black mark for Gutekunst and probably Ted as well. Just an abdication of the responsibility of finding a competent returner, especially when you look at, yes, they did get a couple of all-pro years from Keyshawn Nixon as a kick returner, but even that they stumbled into. Yeah. They didn't sign him with the idea that he was going to be the returner. It was Amari Rodgers was so terrible, they had to do something. That's literally why he became the returner. So it's just that the return aspect has been a major problem.
Lastly, what's a thing or two Jordan Love stands to improve on?
Well, that's a good question.
I think he had a great year, but this is Green Bay. We don't settle for very good years.
You got to be a superhuman at that position, no doubt about it. And look, the metrics will tell you he was out of this world. I mean, out of his mind when he was protected, right? When he had a clean pocket, he just destroyed people.
Sticky stat, which I like. That's a good future indicator as well, as Peter Bukowski tells us repeatedly.
Just put the wall in front of him and he will destroy the opposing defense. Now, that's not life in the NFL. He's got to be better at both just, knowing what to do with the ball when pressure gets through. Although I did think he improved greatly in that area in particular this season. But yes, making sure that those plays turn into either, if anything, just a net maybe positive, but definitely not a negative. Neutral. As far as, give you something that, you're able to either recognize the play is over, I'm going to throw it away, or know where my hot outlet is and be able to get the ball into my hands quickly when I see the pressures coming. There were a few times still this year where he's holding on the ball a little too long, thinking I can still make a play. Again, I think that improved back half of the season, but you're looking at where he can improve. That's still an area where he can grow.
That's a good area. Cheesehead TV, consume his content. You go live the same time this show goes live, and it's funny because when I lead with something that isn't Packers, I will have listeners in the live stream who are like, I'm listening to Nagler. I have this open, but it's muted. When's Mike Clemens coming on? 5:30. So,
let's go. Well, I'm glad I can fill the void for your listeners.
We're tag teaming.
That's good.
Appreciate the assist and appreciate the time, Nagler. Enjoy the rest of your time here at the Combine.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Thank you. We'll be right back with Cody Stoots.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
How lucky are we this week? A couple half-hour sit-downs with Mike Clemens. Mike Renner was here. Aaron Nagler was here. Sam Brookhouse, who has become a favorite of the show, and also I think one of Kate's biggest crushes. She was producing Bill's show earlier today. As we're live here at the Combine, Scouting Combine 2026. Cody Stoots joining us now, recurring guest on the show, draft expert, our Texas correspondent as well. I actually went over to Lucas Oil today, and I watched some of the drills. Vertical jump. What is it when they're standing on a box and is that just standing reach? Is that what that is?
Yeah, probably a little bit of that. Yeah. Yeah.
They had four-way shuttles.
They do a lot of stuff that would hurt you or I.
Yeah.
If we try to do it, I think that's the biggest thing that I see is like, this is to me is the best. Oh, okay. I might not be like the same race as those people.
Sure.
Like they might be aliens and I might be human, or I might be like a fat alien and they might actually be what the real humans are. Defensive linemen are the biggest freak shows ever, especially this year's defensive line class where feels like there's 9 335-pound guys where like you just have seen a lot less big fat defensive linemen, and they're all just like, oh, okay, they just run the 40 in 5 seconds, and it's like, yep, you're a different level of species than I am, you know.
Well, the Packers need one. They need I don't know. You tell me, does a true nose tackle? You know, are teams even drafting those guys anymore? Just pure big body stuffers. I know the Cowboys took Mozzie Smith a couple years ago. He comes to mind.
Yeah, it's awful, terrible. Okay, one strong, not the guy. Here's what I would say. The NFL kind of got spready, and those guys kind of fell out of favor.
Sure.
And then to kind of counter the spreadiness of offenses, a lot of teams just started putting 2 safeties back and putting an extra defensive back on the field and played a lot of nickel, and they'd call it a day. And the way you counter that is you go punch them in the mouth, because typically nickels don't tackle running backs very well.
Typically.
And so now more offenses run the football well. And this is something it's funny because I was going through the like running back situations across the league when I was thinking about the Texans the other day. I was like, man, everybody's invested in the running backs pretty well, except for the Texans. And it's like everybody can, like, people want to run the football again. You're seeing 2 tight ends on the field. And so then the counter to that is go put a big fat human being who's really strong in the middle. So yeah, they're coming back.
Okay.
We will never see Casey Hampton's always my favorite one. You know, we'll never see Casey Hampton again, but big fat guy that can move a little bit laterally, can dart through things when he sees an opening. They're coming back. So you do need a larger human being in the middle of your defensive line now.
Is there a player who might be available at the end of the second round? Because remember, the Packers don't have a first-round pick, who kind of fits that bill, who would be a nice young centerpiece. Lots of athleticism. The Packers are going to need a little bit of that in the middle of the line to kind of rebuild. They've just lost a lot of depth. They lost TJ Slayton. Devontae Wyatt's hurt, but Devontae Wyatt was more of a pass rushing type anyways. Kenny Clark departed last year. So how do we rebuild that thing?
That's a good question. How are the Packers with some maybe off the field stuff?
Typically not.
Okay, is speeding okay?
Of all of the things, that's
better than like
what school does this cat go to?
Georgia.
We're good with it then. That's fine. He loves the Georgia players.
Yeah,
not always the good ones.
Christian Miller is a guy that is just, I mean, he's a nasty run stuffer, but after all those Georgia players had all that stuff, he got caught going 95 and a 65. That's not the worst thing in the world.
Not triple digits.
It's not. That's right. 30 over. Who hadn't gone a little 30 over every
time?
Do
you have a firearm in the car?
No, I don't remember. I don't think so. But
I'll pull up the police report.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that I think is you've got to be very particular about what you want, and he brings it. So, he's sort of on the back end, like the Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. He's not going to be there for the Packers. He's going to go. Caleb Banks, freak athlete. He's going to be gone. Peter Woods, so you got to go to that next level. And Miller's like right on the fringe there. So he's the first name that jumps to mind. Dante Corleone from Cincinnati. The Godfather, which is a great nickname.
I agree.
Great nickname.
How could you have any other nickname with that last name?
Exactly.
No way to do it.
Had, I guess, a medical scare a couple years ago with some blood clots, kind of affected him a little bit, but played pretty well for Cincinnati. And the Cincinnati put together a pretty good, I know it's kind of a sore subject for the folks with the head coach thing at Wisconsin, but Corleone's a nice player. Go in there, eat some space up, and then if you want to stick with the nickname guys, how about the Big Citrus?
Love.
Dom Orange from Iowa State.
Love.
Big fat guy, will not rush the passer very well, but he will eat up some running backs and some offensive linemen. So I think Miller, if he started to slip, that's a guy that, you'd love to see him end up there, but then you're thinking more like the Godfather, the Big Citrus, Corleone from Cincinnati, or Dominique Orange from Iowa State. Those would be fun defensive tackle investments.
I don't know that the Packers are going to completely eschew, I'll use that word, any pass rushing ability.
Eschew, what a big word.
But if there was a time, you just added Micah Parsons. Devontae Wyatt, again, is a player. They picked up his fifth-year option, which is something they didn't do with Quay Walker. I think that he's a player they really like, especially when you just stay healthy, but he's a pure pass rusher. Right? So the player that they probably missed most last year, I know everyone talks about Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark was playmaking nose tackle. I don't know that he's a pure pass rusher, pure nose run stuffer. They missed TJ Slayton, who's in Cincinnati, just a monster of a human being. So I don't know if you can justify a second-round pick on just a big fat guy who eats space and stuffs the run.
Okay, you want a little bit more pass rush prowess?
Maybe.
But you go a little bit later. This is a guy he's testing pretty well here because the big fellas are working out. Grayson Halton from Oklahoma. He was a terrorizer at the Senior Bowl. And he did not shut up for all 3 days. Now, mind you, at the Senior Bowl, you practice against your teammates.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the American team versus the national. Like, you practice against your teammates, and he would not shut up. And you know why?
They need a little of that.
Because he kept making play after play after play, pass rush, run stuff. And then talking to him yesterday, he's like, look, every defensive tackle who's a little shorter is going to tell you they want to be Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you I want to be Aaron Donald. I'm going to be Aaron Donald. I was like, okay.
Oh.
I don't want to be Aaron Donald. I'm going to be Aaron Donald. It's like, I love the confidence. You'll never be Aaron Donald, but if you get half of Aaron Donald's career, that'll be a very successful career. Grayson Halton. So I do like a little confidence from those guys.
I think the Packers need some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, you pay attention to the whole NFL. I know you cover the Texans, but like the Packers all too often, they kind of get sunned just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it always seems like the Packers blow some of these games, and then I hear interviews. It's like, well, they hit Jordan Love high, or we know this was a dirty hit. It's like I'm not arguing whether or not a hit was dirty. I just don't like being the team that complains about it after the fact.
Sure. And one more name I'll throw to you for the big fellas, and maybe a little bit more pass rush. Chris McClellan, Missouri, another Senior Bowl standout. 2 years at Missouri before he was at Florida, he was at Florida, then was at Missouri 2 years. And the thing I like about him, didn't have to play in the bowl game, knew he was going to the NFL, It's like, I got to finish what I started playing the bowl game. They're
I like
going,
that.
Missouri, that bowl game didn't matter to anybody but the guys that were coming back next year. And he's like, I'll play. Him and Zion Young. So that was nice. Zion Young's the defensive end from Missouri, also a very good player. Kind of gave off a little bit like there's something off, but like kind of in a good way vibe. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, in bowl games, they're not meaningless. So you're talking to a guy who covers a program loosely. I'm in Madison, but I haven't been in the bowl game the last 2 years. So
bowl games are meaningless till you don't make them.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to make fun of the bowl game until you're the team that loses all of your rivalry games to Iowa and Minnesota and Nebraska, and then also doesn't make a bowl. So there's that. Are there any? I'll put it this way. I don't think the Packers need to replace their starting corners. I think they can get by with the guys they had. I think that was their plan last year. Our pass rush will be great. We love our safeties. We love Edger and Cooper. The corners just need to be good enough. The problem is they didn't have any depth. So how do we find corner depth in this draft? Because I was hearing yesterday, sneaky corner depth in this draft. Is that something you're hearing?
Yeah, so it's funny because the Texans sort of jumped ahead or jumped the line and added to their corner depth last year. So what's the word? Eschewed?
Yes.
I eschewed the corners yesterday.
I like that.
But I'm familiar with the fact that there are, from whatever size, shape, speed, zone, man, whatever you want, you got something in each round for you from a cornerback standpoint. Just a ton of different body types and success levels.
Good.
And the college game is still very much a throwing game. You know, I know we just talked about the NFL kind of going back to some old school roots. Like, you still throw a ton in college. You got to go find great athletes, and you got to go find smart guys. And then corners can have a little bit more, like you have a little bit more play from a physicality standpoint. You don't have to have some 6'2" long-armed monster at corner. Like, yeah, go get a 5'10" guy who's feisty and's got a little weight to him.
Yeah.
You have him come up and tackle. So I don't have a ton of names for you, but yeah, I have heard that the corner class is quite deep, and I'll be very interested to see how they go and if some of these other positions push some of these corners down the board a little bit.
Brian Gutekunst, the Packers GM, has not selected a cornerback in the NFL draft other than the 7th round since Jair Alexander in 2018. Isn't that nuts? 7th round picks only. Like, how do you feel the
build
defense
depth that way?
And I don't think it's killed them. Keyshawn Nixon's their top corner. I don't think he's great, but it hasn't been a fire drill. I think fans sometimes, it's so easy to pick on corners because they're corners.
Yeah.
And like DK Metcalf will beat you on a play, or Justin Jefferson will get open, but they've mostly weirdly survived. I think this is the year they have to take a couple. So that's something that I'm looking for the Packers. I will
give you two names, two different players. Chris Johnson from San Diego State's going to play outside.
Okay.
Came in the Senior Bowl with a lot of hype. I don't think the Senior Bowl went his way.
Okay.
But there's a lot of success from San Diego State there. I think Keontae Scott is widely thought to be one of the perfect, throw him in the slot, go out there and make things happen from the inside corner standpoint. So Scott's another name to think about too, Miami.
One more draft question. The Packers, if they wanted to, we're drafting a center and we're just going to make him be the guy next year because we don't really know who it's going to be. They could bring back Sean Ryan, but he was a guard. Elton Jenkins was a guard, but then he got it. So if they just wanted to say, we're going to use a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a center and he's our guy and we're just going to set it and forget it, or we're going to try, is there a name that maybe would make sense?
Yes, there is. There's one very clear name. He's at the top of the center rankings.
Okay.
And that's Sam Hecht from Kansas State, and was at the Senior Bowl. And I'm watching him the first day and I'm like, well, he's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy, but nobody's kicking his tail.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that. And as you read a little bit more about him and you hear a little bit more about him, and the way scouts talk about him, is one of the only start him day one centers in this draft. So he's kind of the top guy from a center standpoint. You go a little bit later and you're willing to kind of play a little bit with his availability initially. Jake Slaughter from Florida, although I think he's a little bit not as impressive as I was hoping he was going to be. Here's a fun name for you, because he didn't play center at the college level. He's going to play center at the next level, but he's one of the best blocking left tackles in football last year. It's Trey Zune.
Okay.
Big guy, 6'6", 300-something pounds.
Smokes.
He's going to play center at the next level and has the ability to do it. Now, that's a position change, but it's a position change that he knew he was going to take on. That's a good one. And then the last one is kind of weird because I don't know if you actually want to do it. His name's Jennings Duncan.
I was going to say, this is
from Iowa. He played right tackle at Iowa. He played a lot of guard at the Senior Bowl. And then he's like, I'm going to learn how to play center. And I was like, well, I'm not betting against you. You look like a Viking. So how can I bet against you? Jennings Dunker. My big thing with offensive linemen, and maybe not totally on center, but other line, I like when my offensive linemen look like they smell bad.
Yeah, we've gotten away from this in Green Bay, and you have to go about this delicately because you can't just say we want big fat white guys. But once upon a time, it was Bulaga, Sitton. Who else would have been it? Bakhtiari. He felt kind of a little bit more coastal, but their O-line used to feel a little differently than it does now.
Yeah, I like offensive linemen that wear old clothes.
Okay.
I like offensive linemen that look like they smell bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's like some unkemptness to their hair, like it looks like they don't really use a brush or a comb very often, like I'm in. You go up my board with that.
Cody Stoots is here. Houston football. You cover the Texans. Can I throw you? This is a complete Texans question. There's no Wisconsin connection, but I'm interested in your take on this.
Okay.
Something I was thinking about the other day because I knew I was having you on. I feel like you can make the case that Danielle Hunter is one of the most underrated players in the NFL of this decade.
And you're absolutely right about that. There's only one player with more sacks than him over the past 5 seasons. Myles Garrett.
And he went to Houston, and I think a lot of people thought like, okay, nice rotate. Like he's just continued to be a stud.
He's and he plays 17 games every year.
Mm-hmm.
Roll the football out there, get 15 sacks from Danielle Hunter. And the Texans got a steal on him from a financial investment standpoint the first year.
Yeah.
This past season and this upcoming season, a lot more money invested in him. I think maybe the second or third highest cap hit at the defensive end position. And he's going to sort of price himself out of Houston after this season, and then he's probably going to go somewhere else and get a lot of money and go give him 15 sacks.
And probably be good.
He's going to be a very interesting, he almost feels like one of those guys going to end up with a whole bunch of sacks, and we're going to look up and someone's going to be like, should he be a Hall of Famer?
I've already heard people, here and there. It's just such an interesting player.
He's going to have a really big sack number when it's all said and done if he stays on this trajectory. And he feels like the type of guy that's going to play for a very long time. And, I can't – when I watched him eat a donut one time in the locker room, and I was like, well, that doesn't feel like what guys like Danielle Hunter eat.
Mm-hmm.
How's he? And I asked one of the PR guys, he never does that. He's having a special day today. And I was like, oh, my God. Because he literally – I've never seen a player with more like supplements and powders and proteins and this and that in their locker than Danielle Hunter. And he's always got a shake or a drink or this or that. And, of course, he looks like $1 million.
Rodgers spoke so glowingly of him as a rival when he was with the Vikings. Like whenever he was on the injury report, and I can't imagine it was often, but he would miss time here and there, and Rodgers would always make a point. It's like, dude, if that guy's not out there, that's a terrifying human being to be coming at you.
Yeah. And really soft-spoken, nice.
Yeah.
It's not like a maniac like some defensive ends. So, yeah, we got Texans Packers this year in Green Bay.
We do. Are you gonna make the trip?
I think I got to make the trip.
You've never been to Wisconsin?
I've never been to Wisconsin. I've never been to Green Bay.
You would enjoy the fair. You would enjoy the brats and the beach, just the whole experience of it. It's not Texas barbecue, but it's like a distant cousin, but it's a cousin.
Well, I hear that you folks might like a little beer.
A little bit.
So
a couple.
I think I get along just right.
I'm going to a barbecue spot tonight. What should I get?
You're going to a barbecue spot in Indianapolis, huh?
Well, yeah, my cousin lives here, and it's a spot kind of near where we're staying.
Okay. Don't get brisket, because I would tell you brisket outside of the state of Texas is not worth getting.
Not worth getting. Okay.
I feel I'd feel pretty comfortable with some sausage.
Okay.
Sausage feels pretty comfortable. It's hard to, you get a little leeway with sausage.
Okay.
Okay. You can mess up a little bit. You can mess up the spices a little bit, and then it's exotic. It's nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that sausage pretty, but you might be I don't want to say this derogatory. You might be a sausage expert from this part of country you live in. So it might be a little tougher.
But I'm not a snob.
Okay.
It's
That's good. That's good.
It's good.
That's good. I'm glad you're not a sausage snob. Pulled pork's good. You usually got a sauce pulled pork up pretty good amount.
That's fine.
Get ribs. I feel like ribs are pretty forgiving, and you can usually get a good rib and get some ribs. Don't get brisket.
All right. And have you had the horseradish at St. Elmo's? I've heard people talking about this.
Yeah. My favorite part about that is I tried it when I first came to the combine many years ago, and I had it for lunch. I was the only guy in there. The guy's like, he's got like the whole kitchen like watching out the door waiting for me to try it, and I try it, and he's like, isn't it spicy? I'm like, nah, not really. not really. And he's like, how's it not spicy? I was like, I'm from Texas and I'm from Houston, and we're very close to Mexico and the Mexican culture and what they can do with shrimp and spices. It don't touch a little horseradish in my shrimp cocktail, buddy.
It's a little snappy. That's what we would say. This mustard has a little kick to it. That's what we'd say in the Midwest.
Yeah. If my nose was a little stuffed up, I'd go get me some. But no, I think there's plenty of things in the greater Indianapolis area to try. In addition to the shrimp cocktail, if you never tried it, you always got to wonder though. Not a lot of water with shrimp.
Where is
here.
It coming from?
Yeah.
I also had oysters last night. I didn't think about it. Just like. Fine. Just give me 6 blue tips. I'll eat them. I don't remind me how landlocked we are.
Exactly.
Please and thank you. This is awesome, man. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's great to meet you and hang out here. And I hope you're having a blast here at the Combine and hope that Packers-Texas game's a fun one.
I think it will be. We'll talk more about that maybe when the time comes. We'll be back at the Combine here in just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
With Pella, you get so much more than stunning windows and doors. You get the Pella experience. Pella manufactures, sells, installs, and services every product. And with a 10-year labor warranty, your windows and doors are worry-free for years to come. If something goes wrong, we're here to handle it because you work with the same team from start to finish.
Right now, get 0% interest for up to 48 months.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, starting to wind down the show and wind down the week here at the Combine. We will be off tomorrow because we're traveling. We're kicking off right after Bill's show is done. This place will be empty anyways. By that time, the media center, there's probably 10 people in here right now. It's just a big convention center because everybody is, either at dinner, they're watching players, or they've left for the week because, most of the stuff you come for is already taking place. Unless you are really here scouting the players, then you're over in Lucas Oil. We went over there today for about an hour with Mike. Mike, of course, got a bag of popcorn and Diet Coke. We watched some prospects, just took it in. It's pretty crazy, the demand and the demand that the NFL creates with its listeners and with its viewers and fans. Because, we were over there for an hour. I won't go so far as to say it was boring. It was boring. It was boring. It's a bunch of guys down on the field. Like, let me ask you this. Do you think a track meet is really entertaining? Are you someone that thinks a track meet is really entertaining? If you're like, man, I could take it or leave it. Well, this is that, but way more boring. Way more boring. Like, if you don't find a 400 entertaining, if you don't find a 1600 or a 4x2 relay, a 4x1, if that doesn't do it for you, like, this is 2 or 3 levels below. It's boring. And yet there's countless fans in the stands, in their team's garb. And don't get me wrong. It's, I think fans realize what they're getting into. It's a reason to do a football thing. It's a reason to go to Indianapolis. It's a reason to go to Lucas Oil Stadium. Really cool stadium. It feels really small in there. It almost feels like a baseball stadium. I really liked it. But it's not electric entertainment, There are guys getting measured. Guys jumping for vertical leap. The 40-yard dash is interesting, but they're not racing anyone. They're just running. So again, like, if you're someone who's like, oh, track, that's a boring sport. Well, then this is track on the opposite of steroids. On what would be the opposite of a steroid? Anyone medically a barbiturate? Track on barbiturates. People like Nagler. I loved Cody Stoots. Again, I wish, because I know so many of you are draft nerds, and I just am not. I wish I could service you better, but I can't. But Cody was great. So many names and a great start to draft season. I don't really go hard into the draft until like 2 or 3 weeks before the draft, but this is the start of it. So appreciative of Cody Stoots. Tyson and Madison says, in regards to the Packers, based on everything I've learned with my time on this planet in the real world, strong communication is really frustrating and exhausting. Misinterpretation of delegation or inconsistent messaging is exhausting to communicate. As far as the expectation in professional football, it's to give 100% that you are capable of giving. The burnout rate in football is also 100%. NFL players have to be extremely thoughtful in their meal and recovery plan and all that stuff to play the next game. Head coach burnout rate is also 100%. To have longevity at the position of head coach, you have to understand your capacity. Rationing your energy and focus appropriately to do everything in your power to be prepared to perform at top capacity throughout the games. Based on what I've seen from Matt, here's the point that Tyson's leading up to. I wonder about his week routine. I wonder if he has maybe too much time for some of the guys, leaving him lacking the cognitive juice required to close out a tight fourth quarter. I think we can all agree football is not good for you. Once we get past that, how you choose to manage your physical well-being is the true mastery of the game. Love the show. Take care. Thank you, Tyson. Long message, but I get what you're saying. To go back to what we discussed with Nagler, I think Matt LaFleur was wound up this season. When we were leaving the Super Bowl, we were tearing down Bill's set on the last day, and there was someone on Radio Row. I don't think I'm outing them. I don't think I'm putting them on blast, but I won't say who it was, who is connected in sports, multiple sports, connected to Wisconsin. Maybe you connect the dots. Maybe you take a good guess. But this person had just seen Matt LaFleur the week before the Super Bowl. So it had been a couple of weeks since the season had been done. And he had just talked to Matt LaFleur. And he shared with Bill, and me by extension, because I was eavesdropping, that the contract situation Matt LaFleur this year really wore on him. It really affected him. And I've always observed and considered Matt LaFleur to be a pretty uptight person as it is. I think Matt LaFleur was probably wound tight with two sticks up his butt this year. And I don't know if he was uptight and that's the reason they couldn't close games. I just feel like this year was probably weighed down by the injury factors that suck some life out of the team. Matt LaFleur being, again, I think just under the gun. I remember Mike Clemens a month, maybe before the end of the year, basically posing the question to Bill, and I replayed the audio on this show, you might remember, where Mike said, I wonder if Ed Policy could go back and do this thing again, if he would set up this season the same way. Because what we kind of came to realize is that he really liked Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst and almost certainly was not going to move on. That it would have taken, remember, a catastrophic season for a change to be made. Now, you might argue that season was catastrophic. I'm almost there with you. Catastrophe is strong, but it's hard to envision last season going much worse, considering the talent that they had. They won 9 games. They won the same amount of games that the Minnesota Vikings did, who had like meme-level quarterback play all year. By the way, they fired their general manager. So they won 9 games. What we can argue whether or not it was catastrophic or not, but what we came to learn and what was reported is that it would have taken a catastrophe for Ed Policy to move on from Matt LaFleur. So what Mike Clemens posed is, well, then, knowing that, did Ed Policy needlessly hot seat his own coach? I just wonder if Ed Policy put Matt LaFleur under a gun this year that he didn't need to be under. I think it's a reasonable question. I also think it's fair to say, well, Matt LaFleur, as a professional football coach in the NFL, needs to be able to work through that. I would also agree to a degree. So I folks, if you're anti-Matt LaFleur and you don't think he should be back and you're critical, for the most part, I'm there with you. I understand where you're coming from. I really do. We'll wrap up the show next. I just realized what time it is. We're a little late for a break. So 3 minutes, we'll be back on the other side and wrap up the week here from the Combine.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Last couple minutes. Appreciate you listening this week. Broadcasting live at the NFL Combine. Got to get over to Lucas Oil with Mike and Bill earlier today. I know they're going to be posting some content. Bill, if he hasn't already posted it, you'll be able to find that on his socials. We'll be live from 10 to 2 tomorrow. Tomorrow night's show will be a best of because we'll be traveling back. But I know Greg Cassell's going to be on tomorrow. I believe Jeff Joniak, the Bears play-by-play man, will be on as well. And whoever else I can drag over to the table because I suppose that's my job. So I'm going to have to do some laps, try to drag some people over. And I know we're going to get a full breakdown of the week in the final hour for 3 segments with audio from Mike Clemens, which is always just appointment listening. I always come away smarter, more informed, and entertained, I must say, when we get a couple of segments back to back with Mike Clemens. There's a lot of Packers news today, man, between the grades that came out, a real lack of respect, apparently, from Matt LaFleur towards the players. He was second worst in the entire NFL, and I'm trying to figure out who would be worse. I wonder which coach would be worse. And remember, those grades, as Aaron Nagler told us back at 5 o'clock, those grades were filed or those surveys were completed before they lost 5 in a row in the year. So I guess you could argue that, well, things got better and Matt LaFleur got more fun to be around. I would bet against that. I would have a hard time believing it. I suppose it could be true, but I'd bet against it. So I think those grades, especially the Matt LaFleur of it all, it's made even more interesting or maybe even more damning, knowing that those surveys took place before all the best players got hurt, Micah Parsons, and before they lost 5 in a row, including, blown double-digit second-half leads to the Broncos and the Bears twice, and before the team quit against Baltimore, and before they just didn't even attempt to play a football game in Minnesota, which, by the way, I'm okay with. But 5 in a row is 5 in a row, man. Wisco Greaves, Tyler and Mass says, have a safe trip back. Thank you. Any chance you and Bill will check out Hammond, Indiana on the way back? We drove reasonably close to it. You go south, you don't stick around the lake. And I would imagine we'll do the same tomorrow because you're trying to kind of skirt Chicago in a way that allows you to avoid traffic. I do think, and this is true of Bill, this is true of anybody from Wisconsin I've ever road tripped with. People talk about getting around Chicago like we're re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Like Bill's watching the clock on the way down, like we're gonna get there at this, and then the traffic, and then we come out the other side. It's like we made it through okay. Like we didn't really hit traffic. I mean, there was a couple cars. It's like maybe there'll be some traffic, maybe there'll be some cars, maybe we'll get slowed down 15 minutes. You people, you get so wigged out of being around Chicago. I'm excited to get back to Wisconsin. I'll be in the Dells this weekend. I've been at a proper Wisconsin Dells weekend, and I actually don't even know. I'm going to meet up my siblings. We're going to go water parking like we did when we were kids, because why not? So that's what I have in store this weekend. We'll be back next week. And I want to circle back as we get closer to the draft to some of the things we discussed with Cody Stoots. It was really good. Some of the names, especially interior D-line, interior O-line, because I think they're happy with their tackles, at least on the starting level. Doesn't mean you can't draft more. And corners, I loved what he had to say about the corner depth and the way that position's shaking out, because I think it fits perfectly for what the Packers need, or what they should need. We'll see how they handle it. Be back 10 a.m. tomorrow with Bill's show. And appreciate you listening this week at the Combine. Talk to you tomorrow.